When you're deciding what to buy, what really makes something valuable, it's way more than just the price tag. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a concept that shapes pretty much everything we use. It's called value analysis. And trust me, it's probably not what you're thinking.
Okay, so let's just start with a really simple question. Is cheaper always better? I mean, our first instinct is to say, yeah, of course, who doesn't love a good deal? But think about it. What if that super cheap thing you bought just falls apart in a week? And what if something a little pricier would have lasted for years? That tension is exactly where this all begins.
For a lot of people, the term value analysis just sounds like some corporate jargon for, cutting corners or making things on the cheap. But that's the big myth we're going to bust right here. The real strategy isn't about slashing costs. It's about maximizing what you get for those costs. It's about getting the absolute most bang for your buck. All right, so here's the game plan for today. We're going to start by moving past that old cost-cutting idea. Then we'll nail down what value analysis actually is. After that, we'll dig into why it's such a superpower for businesses, see where it's popping up outside the factory, and then we'll wrap it all up to understand what value really means.
Okay, let's dive in. First things first, before we can really get what value analysis is, we have to be super clear about what it isn't. This is not about just grabbing a red pen and slashing the budget. Nope. It's a whole shift in thinking, from just looking at the price to looking at the performance you get for that price.
So, let's get right to the heart of it. What are we actually talking about here? What is value analysis? And where did this whole idea come from?
Okay, so at its core, value analysis is a really systematic approach. It's not just guessing or cutting things randomly. It's a way of looking at a product or a service and asking some really smart questions. Like, does what this thing does actually justify what it costs? And maybe more importantly, is there a better, more efficient way to get the same job done? But, this idea didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's really evolved over time. According to research from Ji Yang, it started out as pretty basic cost-cutting, but today, it's way more complex. It pulls in things like technology, customer happiness, and innovation. And looking ahead, it's all about being quick on your feet, adapting to a market that's always changing. And it's this systematic thinking that turns value analysis from just another business process into, well, what I'd call a superpower. Seriously, this isn't just a nice-to-have skill. For a lot of companies, it's what helps them win, and, maybe even more importantly, what helps them survive when things get really tough. I mean, just think about it. In the global market we have today, companies are fighting for every tiny edge they can get. And according to folks like Brandoni, value analysis is one of their most powerful tools. It lets them build smarter, leaner operations so they can compete on the world stage without having to sacrifice the quality their customers expect. All right, so let me ask you a question. When a crisis hits, say the economy tanks, what do you think is the one thing that really saves a company? The answer is probably not what you'd expect. And here it is. You'd think, logically, that being profitable is everything. But the data shows something else, something really fascinating. During a major downturn, how profitable a company is on paper, well, it has almost no impact on its actual value. So what does? Liquidity. Good old cash on hand. That's the real kingmaker. It gives a company the freedom to pay its bills, to change course, and to simply outlast the competition. And look, this isn't just some theory. A 2024 study by Verna Renata and her team, looking at pharmaceutical companies, found this exact thing to be true. And that is precisely why value analysis is so powerful. It's not just about making a company look profitable, it's about building a company that's resilient, that's lean enough to weather any storm that comes its way. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about things like manufacturing and finance, but this idea has totally broken out of the factory. Let's take a look at where value analysis is showing up in the digital world, the world you and I live in every single day. And I'm not kidding, it's everywhere. You've got researchers using these principles to figure out the business models for digital media platforms, or even to decide where to invest in the whole internet sector. And on a level you'd actually see, it's being used to make e-commerce sites work better and to figure out the psychology behind why you pick one phone over another.
Okay, let's make this super concrete. So in software testing, there's this method called boundary value analysis. What does that mean? Well, instead of testing every single possible number you could type into the quantity box on Amazon, testers just check the edges, the boundaries. So they'll test the minimum you can order, the maximum, and maybe one or two weird ones like 0. This gives them the most bang for their buck, focusing their time where bugs are most likely to hide. It's a perfect, real-world example of value analysis in action.
And it doesn't stop there. A 2024 study from Michael and Sutarno looked at retail electronics and found something really key. Having a great product just isn't enough. If the price seems way too high, or if the customer service is awful, then the customer's perception of value is totally shot. So value isn't just some number on a spreadsheet inside the company, it's something that lives inside the customer's head.
All right, so let's pull all these threads together. Let's get to the bottom line here. What is the true meaning of value? So here's the big takeaway. Value is not a race to the bottom. It is not about finding the absolute lowest price. Think of it more like a balance beam. On one side, you have function and performance, what a thing does and how well it does it. On the other side, you have the cost. The real magic, the whole point of value analysis, is finding that perfect sweet spot right in the middle. And that really brings us to the final question. We've seen how this idea of value has changed over time, right? It went from being a simple number to this complex strategy that mixes tech, psychology, and global economics. So the question I want to leave you with is this. In a world that is constantly changing, what do you think value is going to mean next?